The way that YouTube has changed to go from more intent-based advertising to generally go to more interest-based advertising, you've got a different type of user watching your content now. So instead of someone being convinced by your lead gen or your, like for a webinar or for booking a call, like those were great for when people are already looking for your stuff and you sell them something, they're like, oh, that's what I want. But now they might not want that. So you have to create an offer that's really intriguing to people.
Hello to everyone and welcome to a new episode. I have a great honor to have Tom Breeze as a guest. For those of you who are not familiar with Tom's work, Tom is essentially godfather of performance YouTube advertising. He holds major of psychology from University of Leeds. Topic of his dissertation was gambling, and as a part of the research process, Tom committed to pay part of his tuition by online gambling winnings, which he successfully did. After he finished the school, Tom started business as a consulting coach for business performance, if I'm not right. And then, as every business owner, he stumbled into the situation to how to promote his business. And he somehow, by good luck and the gratitude of Google, got £30 check from Google to test Google AdWords. And it worked perfectly for him. Essentially, he got 800% return on the ad spend from a first £30 and things kind of get rolling. After that, Tom started SEO agency, but as pretty much any grown-up man, he figured out that it's not going to work, and he moved into the paid advertising and essentially started something that when I first heard about it, and like most of our friends and the friends around me, we would not believe that exists at all. Essentially, with Viewability, which is his YouTube ad agency, he started and rolled out, at least to my knowledge, one of the first YouTube performance-based agencies, which essentially means that Tom fund and pay for your marketing spend and then get paid only if he create or generate action that whatever it means to your business. For years, he has been, and his agency together with his team, one of the biggest spender in the performance marketing space on YouTube, generated miracles and ton of ad spends for clients like For Patriots, Frank Kern, WeShred, HelloFresh. Like there is zero chance you haven't been annoyed by his ads if you ever been on the YouTube. And on top of that, he did a lot for our community in a way that he pretty much created the courses from, I think, Conversion Excel, then his own, essentially like helped hundreds of new media buyers to kind of get their skills for the YouTube advertising to the next level. We had a ton of conversations before and it was always fun. And I think like, especially in this moment when the YouTube is changing more than ever before, I felt that Tom is someone that we have to have this conversation and talk what is going on, why it's going on, and what we can expect. But before we move to that,
this podcast is brought to you by VidTao.com. VidTao is our free YouTube ad library and spy tool, research tool. It's VidTao.com. At VidTao, we have close to 1 million unlisted YouTube video ads that you can search, find, discover how they're doing on a day-by-day basis. So you can really see what ads your competitors are running, see ads in different markets that you can model to create new winning ads for yourself, and a whole lot more. It's all there inside vidtao.com. Plus, we have a premium edition. So the database is free to access, but then we also have a premium edition where you have full unlimited access to the database. And inside there, we also provide training. So we also run an agency called Inceptly. That's INCEPTLY, Inceptly.com, where we've managed over $150 million on YouTube. It's a video traffic agency, and we've worked with everyone from brands like Descript.com, Huel, to real scrappy direct response, info products, supplements, health, beauty, e-commerce, you name it, we've done it, and love sharing what we've learned. Every week we drop new training in there, everything from YouTube ad media buying to running e-commerce creatives on YouTube, to hardcore tracking and attribution tutorials to really level up your data science game for advertising, and everything in between. Right now, as we speak, we're working on a training regarding YouTube Shorts. Hopefully we'll be live by the time you hear this. On and on and on. This is our passion, is video advertising, and we want to share it with you inside of VidTao Premium. And actually right now, for a limited time, you can get access to VidTao Premium for a very special price. So if you go to vidtao.com, sign up for free, check out the database, upgrade to premium for this very special price, so you get access to all of the database and all the trainings. And also wanted to add that at Inceptly, we do free brainstorm calls with clients like you. So if you ever want to get help or ask questions about your YouTube ads, your video traffic on other platforms, we're available to chat. Just go to inceptly.com/call, CALL, and set up a time to chat. It's free and would love to speak with you. Our team's waiting to speak with you. So without further ado, let's get into the show.
I just want to know one thing that pretty much I guess everyone wants to know, whoever read your book, which is which part of your tuition, like how much of your tuition you paid with your online gambling winnings?
Oh, my word. That's a good question. So I was lucky enough when I was at university, my fees were a third of what they are today.
Wow.
So I think as soon as I left university, the tuition fees tripled in the UK. And that was like, so I did my 3 years and did my master's afterwards. So it would have been like 5 years after I started. So my tuition was £3,000 a year, which is like 4,000 USD. Per year, which is nothing, right? I think it was like heavily subsidized by the government. And then the government were like, looming recession, we're going to just get the money back from students now. It's like, so it rose to £9,000 a year, which is still not that much money considering what the US pay. But so 3,000, I pretty much covered the whole thing. But I still took out a student loan because I had a lot of drinking to do and a lot of partying to do during those years, and I couldn't afford that. My gambling was only so good.
Cool. So, you've been in this like a game, like, you know, before we all figure out target CPA, maximize conversion, affinity, in market, like God know what. And when you look back, each of these years on a way how you kind of figure out how to make things work for you and your clients, like how do you feel at this particular moment?
I feel like a year away from the end of my SEO days. That's honestly how I feel at the moment.
Wow.
So, okay. So yeah, I'll try to unpack that a little bit because I don't want to be doom and gloom the whole call. I saw some really interesting data insights about 18 months ago. And the biggest, because everyone was going through all these different changes with like privacy updates and during, just before lockdown started happening with COVID, and before that period, YouTube was gradually getting more expensive, right? I think we all noticed it, but it was still ways away from like thinking, oh, this is going to get too hard. Like I remember running Google ads from like the earliest days of running Google ads and be like, honestly, for the first probably 6 months of running Google ads, I didn't even have tracking in place, but it was working so well that it didn't really bother me. And I was like, this is like, as soon as I found Google, I was like, this is the easiest thing in the world. I literally just put a text ad here and the phone calls and I pay pretty much nothing and make a fortune. And I was like, why has no one else figured this out yet? This is amazing. I wish I had more business sense that time, looking back, to be like, I wish a business mentor, I wish I'd hired someone at that time, say, by the way, you don't need to do the sales and do all the session. Like, so I used to do like one-to-one sessions with people. Like, you don't have to do all of that, by the way. My limiting belief was like, well, no one can be employed. I don't know how to do that bit, so I'll do everything. I was like, oh, I missed out on a huge opportunity there. But still, did have a great days. But the coming back to like, so when I ran Google ads, like the costs increased, and all of a sudden the text ads I was running, they were making lots of changes on the platform. Like, so they did give us what's called the Google slap. I'm not sure if you remember those days, where it was like, if you'd had a landing page without enough clear information on it, they would say no, and they just banned your account immediately. Whoa, what happened? Like, I was running that account for a while, but there was no such thing as machine learning and that type of thing. So it was like, oh, okay, well, I'll just create one tomorrow and just start again. And it wasn't like you missed out on all the data. You just could look back at what you were running before and just start it up again. So we had kind of like that was my first business. I built it with Google ads. And then I started getting into the video world, and then there's a bit of a jump there, I know, but like I was doing video for clients because I was doing public speaking training the year before, like my first business, and then I did during that period, I was like selling my offerings to my database with video. So I was like, come to a weekend workshop and I'll teach you how to speak in public more efficiently, and then or more effectively. And then I would have people in the room, and a couple of business owners came up to me in the event I ran. I said, how did you do that video on your website, by the way? And I found it really hard at the time. I was like, I had to borrow my parents' camcorder because that was the only thing I could think of filming it on. I had to work out how to get my mic to go into a dictation machine and then sync up the audio and the video afterwards. It was a nightmare. But in the end, I managed to get it up onto a new platform called YouTube. It was pretty much brand new. No one was really using it. And then I managed to embed that on my website and I figured it out. And then I just sent an email to my whole list to say, come to my weekend workshop. And they were like, yeah, we want to. So these two people at the workshop were like, we want to do what you did there. How do you set that up for your business? And so I just showed them how to present on camera and create video. And then it was like, and then you stick it on this thing called YouTube. And then they would start getting these organic views and they were starting to generate more business for themselves. Yeah. And I was like, oh, well, okay, well, there's probably a game here to play on YouTube. And I met a business partner at the time who was like an SEO genius. And so he would take the videos we create with clients and then SEO the hell out of them so they would appear all over the internet. And so we ran that company, but then Google made further changes, and they said you can't do there's like certain like they did penguin updates and panda updates and hummingbird updates and basically every animal that came out, and they would make all these changes that all the SEO life that you're used to got massively disrupted, and our rankings started dropping. And so we had to pivot. And what I did is one of the clients that we were working with had created this really good video. I'd created this really good video with him. I said, oh, do you know what? I'm going to try and use Google ads, go back to that. And then so once we did the SEO thing for a little while, or did the Google ads for a little while, loads of changes, pivoted to SEO, loads of change on the SEO, pivoted back to ads. And now we're at a stage where there's loads of changes happening again, but I've been predicting it for the last 18 months because of certain data sets. And so we've been pivoting quite hard in terms of direct response advertising on YouTube still works really, really well. Yeah. It's just you have to have everything dialed in, like really good ads, really good funnel, really good margins, and then really good ad buying. And a lot of that is becoming outside of our control, which is really frustrating. Yeah. So like, like in the good old days, you'd be like, right, here's all the levers. I'm ridiculously good at pulling the levers to make our ad campaigns work better. But now those levers become less effective and disruptive, if anything. And then you're like, oh, well, Google, you're taking over, do a good job. And if it doesn't do a good job, you're like, I don't know what to do now. Like, it's just really frustrating, apart from create better offers and create better creative and then hope the machine learning dials in.
Which is a lot of hopes.
More hopes than you would like, for sure. Yeah. And I think there's also a factor like in the past, the biggest thing to improve your campaigns was optimization, right? You could get away with a pretty bad ad and a pretty bad offer and still make it work with really good ad buying. Yeah. And now that's pivoted quite heavily to be like, you got to create ridiculously good offers and ridiculously good ads and have margin to play with and not expect a really high ROAS. And those times have come on every platform. Like Facebook was happening as well. So it's the same for everybody, but yeah.
And I think if I can add and interfere here, I think like what AI and machine learning did is like, it's amazing, but there are side effects. And I think Google itself will leave these side effects. We were together at the conference that we did in Oxford, and there was one sentence from Rory Sutherland that still kind of resonates with me, which is the opposite of good idea can still be a good idea. And if you go back in 2014, I think when that engineer came to Susan Wozniacki and the whole board, and he said, like, if we expand the length of the video and we prioritize these videos for the algorithm to push them to get the more impressions. We're going to push the average session, and then that's going to double the inventory, and the whole business is going to boom. And if you go back into history and look, wow, that was an amazing decision. Except that in 2016, like, we got TikTok. So they kind of, expanded on one business, and then they opened the opportunity for other companies to go there. But this leads me to the question that I think our team and Inceptly and VidTao, the whole community is waiting me to ask. And I've been following you and your recent conversations. So, let me ask it. Click-through rate equals higher CPM. So floor is yours, and let's listen to that 18 months story in the process. And what did you guys find out?
Yeah. Okay, cool. So so I was already 18 months ago thinking we're coming out of the lockdowns and we're noticing changes happening in our ad accounts that we were expecting to happen. Like so on the run up to lockdowns, I was like, I can see costs increasing and we're going to have to get better and better at our craft all the time, which we always do anyway. But it was like the markers were there. Lockdown happens, big brands pull their budgets and don't advertise on the platform. Many, many more people are now on YouTube with disposable income because they're not going to work and they're not traveling and they're being paid to not do anything, basically. And they're bored, which is almost like the perfect scenario for many of our products that we're selling. It's like, people with money who are bored and want to be entertained by something, and they're not at work and they're on YouTube more than ever before. You're like, oh, that was the perfect scenario for us as advertisers. Yes. Obviously not for the rest of the world, but but for that moment, it was great. So almost like all those concerns I had were like, guys, everything's working well. And as soon as we started coming back out of the lockdowns, that trend started coming back quicker than, not quicker than I expected, but just quickly. And I was like, yeah, we're back like to where we should be. And we've got those questions in our mind become a little bit, the question marks become bigger, basically. So privacy updates was one that was huge, and how that was affecting a lot of other advertisers. Attribution, always a nightmare. I don't think that's ever going to be solved, because even if you feel like you've got a handle of the numbers, you're missing the point, I think, because you're saying like, oh, well, this ad performed this result. It's like, what happened before all of that? Like, I think what Wicked Reports are doing is really intelligent with like their middle of funnel attribution, which is a thing they've been releasing recently, which I think is really interesting to have a look at. But still, I think that attribution is such a difficult thing to figure out. You can feel more certain about your numbers, but it doesn't necessarily mean what it actually means, and that's kind of another question anyway. But anyway, the whole mix was getting more confusing, and I was like, well, what actually impacts a result on YouTube? Like, what impacts your CPA? And you can say, right, well, if your click-through rate and your conversion rate is solid, then that's a good place to be, right? So you want the customer journey to be as best as possible. But then also you're playing, like the only other factor that you have that's going to determine your CPA is your cost of advertising. And I was like, cool, well, we just need to figure out how to improve the CPMs. That's a challenging question. Like, no one really knows, I don't believe, what actually impacts CPM. There's a few things that we found that were impacting it, that we learned from every other platform. So things like competition, seasonality, ad fatigue, targeting types, campaign setups, all minor little things that would impact the CPM, but it didn't explain why these CPMs can go from like $20 for 1 week and go to $120 the next week, and just you see these like big peaks and drops, and you're like, what the hell's going on here? And then we didn't ever think to measure it, but I just started looking at every bit of data that I had and just compared one data set to another data set and look for trends of data. And if you ever go into your ad account, and if you've run a lot of ads as well, if you ever kind of, on the Google interface, if you pull it up, then you can kind of, you have different choices at a broad level of like, well, here's how much you're spending every day across the whole account. So you get like the blue marker and the red marker across like a graph. If you are to put CPM and CTR together, they are intertwined. They go next to each other all the time. And that for me, I was like, wait a second, what's going on there? And it was it was like saying the CTR and the CPM just are paired together very, very closely. And you see it when you're running more ads, I think, more clearly, but you can still see it when you're running smaller ads, smaller budgets every day, and less ad testing and things. And then we started doing some regression analysis and just realized that, yep, this is a trend. The higher the CTR, the higher CPM. And it pretty much was the case every single account that we were running. And not just our own agency accounts, but also we do a lot of consulting. And so we looked at other people's accounts before they even worked with us, and we saw the same trends. It wasn't like the way we had built the campaigns, as everyone builds their campaigns slightly differently. And so we looked at that and we're like, wow, the implications of that are huge, because it means that really, as of about 18 months ago, when these changes started to happen and become more noticeable, it's really YouTube's market to say, if people click away from our ad platform, you're going to spend some money with us. And I don't know if they made an algorithm update or something. They must have, but it was subtle to start with. I didn't realize that it happened. But the impact means that, like, if you have a video ad, and you've probably seen this before, Brad, as well, with your campaigns in Seply, but like, if you were to put your time and energy into creating a really good ad, you might see your click-through rate increase, and you're like high-fiving around the office. The creative team are like, woohoo, we've nailed it. And then the ad buyers are like, well, wait a second, it is a better result, but conversion rates have dropped a little bit because we've oversold it in the ad perhaps, or we're just getting more traffic coming through. But all of a sudden your CPAs just go up. And it was like that. It was almost like the win was very short-lived, and it didn't really get the impact you wanted it to. You're like, and so you want better ads, but I think the question mark about what a better ad actually means has changed. You know, beforehand it would be like, get more clicks, and people say the job of an ad is to get the click. I don't think that's the truth anymore for YouTube. I think that the job of the ad is to get a qualified click, and less of them as well.
But I think that is, I think that's something that I've referred into Google becoming a victim of its own over optimization. I feel that algorithm is kind of too good to know who the audience is, so they drive the price just through the roof. So they're going to try and get you to pay as much as they can, because YouTube want people to stay on the platform so they can serve more ads. And so they're going to naturally favor brand advertisers who are willing to pay the budgets, or those people that are kind of running a short-lived campaign to say, all right, I've got a month to sell this thing, and it's kind of, we're releasing a brand new product, we've got this much budget, we're going to throw it and see what happens at the end of it. Like, that's not a performance advertiser's dream. They're like, no, I want to build something consistent, that's reliable and works really well. We're not going to throw budget at it and at the end of it see like how we did. We're going to no, every day we're going to track results and make sure they're working well. But it does mean that and I understand why YouTube don't want direct response advertisers on the platform. Like that, no user wakes up in the morning and goes, oh, I can't wait to get onto YouTube today and see if there's any more direct response ads for me. You know, I mean, no one thinks like that. It's a bad user experience most of the time. And so like any time, and I got this from Eric from Four Patriots, Eric Brinker, I think he's a genius, very, very clever guy. He's like, as soon as there's a change in YouTube, and as soon as an algorithmic change, he won't just wait and see. He knows that's the future, and he just leans in immediately and starts his learning immediately. And I think I've kind of been of that way to like be testing a few things. But he's like, well, look, that's the future, so we might as well learn it now and dive in deep, so we've got an advantage as soon as we've learned it. Yeah, exactly. And it's a really, really good mindset to have. And so that's kind of the way we've approached this, is to say, well, if we're going to lean into this and pay attention to what YouTube actually wants and provide ads that the customer wants, that YouTube wants, and then we'll work out how to make that profitable as a business. The way that we do it now is to kind of lead with content, basically, to lead with really good value, and then have a pitch at the end of the really good, valuable piece of content. You know, so it might be like a longer form ad, but we're promoting it in a way that we say, like, you're gonna come across this video, it's gonna be the best damn thing you've seen,
and you fall in love with the brand as a result, and then you would consider buying from us. We've got to earn that consideration from you. And it's a very refreshing approach to take, because you know what, like, I think there's two types of sorry, go for it.
Yeah. So essentially what you're trying to do, you kind of, if I understood it correctly, you try to replicate the organic experience, except that you have the pitch at the end. How that affect, because obviously when you figure that out, it's not like you just need to change the ad. You obviously need to change the whole structure. How that affected, I mean, you can talk more about the process, but how that affected the whole funnel, the whole setup that you guys had, if you can just give us a little insights there.
Yeah, so that's a really good question, because I wouldn't say we've fully figured that out yet, but there's a lot of findings we've had. What we realize is two types of advertiser, right? So there's like the direct response advertiser that's paying like loads of money every single day, making good profit and scaling a business really damn quickly. Like a very, very different business to the average business that is wanting to promote their business on YouTube, but just can't do direct response. Like they don't have the personality for it, perhaps. They don't have the right business for it. They just okay, I would consider myself in that scenario. I think I could do direct response for my own products if I wanted to. I think I've done that before, but I don't think I'm the best presenter in the world, not for selling. But allow me to have 10 minutes with somebody and give them content. I have a much stronger feeling that they're going to want to buy from me afterwards. You know, I kind of convince people over time. I wear them down, basically, Brett. Like,
no. This is a true. This is a true. Whoever was in a room with Tom can testify about this. Like, you are sold immediately.
Yeah, you need 10 minutes. I need to wear you down for 10 minutes. Like, all right. Here's some money. Just shut up. So there's two types of advertiser, and I think that the time of the direct response advertiser is slowly going away from most. You know, there's going to be some that will survive and kill it and do really, really well, but I think most will be like, do you know what? I'm going to lead with content and go that route. So to your point, like when we took on the first few clients to do this, we just literally went through their YouTube channel. We built some software to identify the best content and also how to improve that content. And when we identified that, we were like, look, we really think we should promote these 3 videos from your channel that you've already created. They're really good. There's a call to action in them as well, but by natural videos, but they weren't designed ever at all apart from to be content videos. And so we ran them as in-feed video ads. And I was really close to not even putting tracking on the website. It was like, look, the whole idea of this is just to build your brand, build your YouTube channel, build your presence, build your fame, and then loads of opportunities will come off the back of that. We did put tracking in place. The reason we nearly didn't for our first client is because it was really complicated. There were so many different avenues they could go off there. There wasn't a good sales funnel. It was just come to my site and see if you want to buy one of my products. So it was almost like we had to track everything. And it wasn't like we weren't spending a huge fortune. It was like $5-10 a day for each video. And we decided to put the tracking in place. We figured it all out, and we ran the ads. And we were growing the channel. We were reporting on the growth of the channel. We're like, hey, look, here's how many more subscribers you've got, more likes, views, comments. You're building really quickly. It's amazing. And then we're like, oh, and by the way, we've just seen that you've made, I can't remember how many conversions, but there's quite a lot of conversions. And like, yeah, we've seen, and each conversion was worth about $100 to them, there or thereabouts. And they were coming in from anywhere from $20 to $60.
Wow.
And we're like, oh, wow, we're making profit doing this as well. That's great. And so then we're like, oh, can we increase the budgets a little bit? Which we did. And so now we've got the best of both worlds, where we've got brands that are growing their ad campaigns, and they're not heavy starters. They start at like $5-10 a day, but you get the benefit of paid media. You get the benefit of earned media. So you're kind of, all your videos are getting seen organically now. And you get the owned media as well. So you've got more subscribers, and if you release more videos in the future, you've got far more eyeballs on them as well. So you're going to get the best of all the best worlds of YouTube together. But also you're collecting so much data about what messages really resonate, what targeting is working, what offers are converting. And it's going to give you a much better launch pad to say, right, from there, to then go into the Instream ads and more direct response advertising, you've got a far better foundation. But for the offers in particular, there's because the way that YouTube has changed to go from more intent-based advertising to generally go to more interest-based advertising, you've got a different type of user watching your content now. So instead of someone being convinced by your lead gen or your like for a webinar or for booking a call, like those were great for when people are already looking for your stuff and you sell them something, they're like, oh, that's what I want. But now they might not want that. So you have to create an offer that's really intriguing to people. And one thing we're going down the route of is Score app, which is by Daniel Priestley's software, which is like so you can give people a scorecard. And I think that is a really interesting route to take with YouTube advertising. So let's say, for example, we're selling one of our clients sells soap and detergents. And they're very natural, but they are really good for the environment, very green, and green living enthusiasts love that sort of stuff, right? And it's like zero plastic and that type of thing as well. And we think like to sell it directly from YouTube's not an easy gig. That's kind of like quite a difficult thing to sell unless you kind of got everything down. Whereas if you now had an ad that ran to say approach people at that kind of at their living green conversation, and then saying, do you know that you can get a scorecard for how green is your household? So a green household scorecard, so to speak.
Yeah.
So then people are like, hang on a second. Yeah, I think we're pretty green, but maybe there's something I don't know about myself. It's like a personality test, you know, and you're going to get something at the end of it that kind of explains something to you. And so they've got software to do this Score app. I wish I was an affiliate, but I should probably find that one day. And so running a YouTube ad to that sort of offer, or offers of a similar ilk to that, I think is like the future of, or the near future of what would work on YouTube. Like if I was to put my hedge my bets on what offers are likely to work with more interest-based offers, I would say something like that, where someone can then get a scorecard for how green their household is. And it just so happens that they don't score quite so well when they've answered their questions around shampoos and soaps and detergents, because like, oh, well, you're actually using quite a lot of plastic every year, and those chemicals aren't great for the environment. You should swap to something like this. As you're highlighting the weaknesses, and then at a conversation that's easy to have, and then you're saying, great, would you like to work on that? And make your house even greener than it currently is.
And they are already invested. They are already invested because they went through the whole thing and figured it out. Yeah, that make
exactly. So you could do like a dating scorecard. Do you know what I mean? Or a money scorecard, or whatever it would be. You could think of like loads of different scorecards, like a YouTube advertising scorecard. You know, like let's look at your creative, let's look at your offers, let's look at your ad buying, let's look at your content, and then you can kind of like highlight to them like, here's where you're really strong, here's where you're not quite so strong, and here's what you probably don't realize is actually affecting your campaigns negatively. There's things you can do about that. Here's a couple of free bits that will help you. And then if you want to talk further, let's book in a call. You know, it's simple, it's easy, but it's quite a nice little hook to have, you know.
Okay, so I want to go back a little bit to the CTR CPM. I just want to like, because we are almost running out of time. I just want to like kind of get like, everyone now can go into their ad account and see that. But if they are like, you know, if they want to turn this insight into something actionable, like what would be your recommendation? Because now I had this morning, like almost a fight with our data analyst, going again, why CTR is influencing or CPM, is that because of this or that? But one of the ideas that I shared with our team this morning was like, you know, we test having video without even call to action. Like, what did you guys tested that kind of gave you, if you made a breakthrough or anything that you can share in that context that people can just, you know, let's test it out and see how it works for us.
Yeah, I can give you a number of things to test because we found different things work for different clients. So one of the easy wins is to add qualifiers in the video that aren't what most direct response advertisers would do. And when I say most direct response advertisers, I'm thinking of like the next person that's going to sell a get rich quick scheme type thing. Like, give me 90 seconds of your time and I'll show you how to do this, that, and the other. It's like, oh, like that kills me inside every time I see those sorts of videos. But it's more a case of saying, I would pitch a product in the video. So like, say this is not I would at least sell something in the video, and I'll tell people the price of that product. That's one of the key things you can do, I think. Or if it's a free thing like a scorecard, I would tell people that really early on to say, I'm gonna help you. This is what we did with VShred, in fact. Not because of this, but back in the day, we said like, what's the angle that we can go on here? And it's like, the angle is, unless we know your body type, we can't help you get the body of your dreams. And so like, we can give you all this advice, but until we know that, the advice is going to be so generic. So come to our website, take our quiz, and then we can actually probably help you. So you're selling the quiz in the video itself and why you're and there's a reason for the quiz. You know, the scorecard, you can do that naturally as well. But if you're selling a product, like I would not do, and I just had this conversation with someone who does like free events, free like Zoom events, which is like a 3-day event they do. I was like, if you do free, well, you know this, like if you start attracting free and you start optimizing the account for free, you get more of free, and there's probably aren't the best customers in the world. Just put like a dollar amount to it. Like, let's say, for example, $17 to join your free, like join your $17 Zoom 3-day experience or something. Just so people get their wallets out and pay, and you get better data. But I would say that you want to add the £17 or $17 pitch in the video ad. Because then, and inform them about the whole thing, about what's going to be included, the fact that it's £17. So it's like you're doing pretty much a VSL, but a YouTube ad style. But you're adding that all into a video, because then the only people that are going to click, you're going to probably have a very low click-through rate, but the only people going to be clicked will know exactly what the offer is, how to take advantage of it, what the next page looks like. And so if they click, the conversion rate is going to be very, very high, you know. And so you're going to get low CTR, high click-through rates, and your CPMs will probably be quite low because the click-through rate's low. And that's kind of one way of tackling that problem. I'd also try and not make the ads look like ads as well, if I could avoid it at all.
I saw the huge thing was in some info product space, these type of podcast ads. I don't know if you noticed that, like people would just have the interview and that would be served as ad, and some of them actually took off. As you know, we know everything.
Yeah, the podcast VSLs. Yeah,
what is working. So, a couple of podcasts have been really taking off. How was that test for you?
With podcast VSLs?
No, not podcast, but just creating the ad and not generating experience of the ad.
So what was the question? Sorry.
So you said like you guys tried to test it, creating ads that don't look like the ads, and I was referring to one of the angles for the podcast was just to look like the podcast, not like the ad. So just wanted to know, how was your experience with creating the videos that don't look like the ads?
Yeah, good. So some of our best ads have been like the intros to them, and we've more uncovered rather than designed what's worked well. It's not like we've come out the gate and been like, this is what we've created because we know it works really well. It's more like we've analyzed and be like, oh, that works because of that reason. That's interesting. So it's kind of, so one of our best ads is of a lady who is lying on her, I think it's like her living room floor, and she's just been sketching something like in a very casual manner. And then she's kind of like, she's sitting on her front, like she's lying on her front and she's got the camera in front of her and she's almost like got her hands like this and she starts talking to the camera. And it's like, that doesn't seem like an ad at all. It seems like I'm in the front room with you in a very intimate environment. That sort of thing can provide like an experience that is unbeknownst, like a bit of a pattern interrupt. Not for that intention though. It makes it feel like this is a YouTube video. This is not an ad. This is a YouTube video that's going to capture my attention. We lead with content, and the other thing is that there's no intro whatsoever. Like literally, don't get into who you are. Don't get into what this video is going to be about. Just start. Like imagine like the bit where you say, all right, so ready? Let's get going. Cut everything you just said up until that point and now start the video from there. So it's like step number one should be like the start of the video and give good content, and then later introduce the reasons why you created that content or that framework in such a way during the video.
So essentially essentially it's just like removing the hook. The hook is content.
Yeah, exactly. So I like it if it's an in-feed video ad, for sure do that, because if it's an in-feed video ad, the thumbnail is the hook. Like you've got them with the thumbnail and the title, like that's the hook. And what better way if you said like, okay, so let's say for example there's a thumbnail, I said the 3 best ways to run a YouTube ad or something like that between you and I, and you're like, oh okay, cool, I'll click this, and then it's, instead of there being some preamble at the start, it said, all right, ad number 1, here's what you're gonna do. And it's like, we're like whoa, we're starting. And so the retention stays really high. And that's what you want. And the beauty of this approach is that you say the name of the game is to get people to watch 8 minutes of your content. If you can get, and the best videos will have over 50% of your original viewers watch past 8 minutes. And then you think, right, your pitch, you've earned the right to pitch someone at 8 minutes. Yes. And you've got 50% of people seeing your pitch and are ready to listen to your pitch. Like that, if you can get that done, everything falls into place, because then you've got remarketing that makes sense. You've got everything else that makes sense. But the idea is retention. Get retention to be high. Put that pitch in front of people, because the opposite of that is to say, run a YouTube Instream ad hard with no content, just like pitchy. You're going to have a 1%, 2% click-through rate. And then of those people that get through to the site, maybe 10% of people get to the checkout page or something. And you're like, right, you're dealing with 0.2% of viewers seeing your offer versus 50% of people ready to receive your offer. It's a very different stat game to play with. So with your data analysts, you have to explain that this is a complete paradigm shift. I don't say that lightly. I know the paradigm shift is used a lot. But from a YouTube advertising perspective, it's like, you got to look at this differently. This is different data. It's not like we're trying to improve what we've got. We're detaching one type of advertising and replacing it with a new type of advertising, and just look at the data in isolation in a new way. Because it's not quite so easy to track everything half the time, because people are going to watch the content and they might click off and go elsewhere, and then they might remember the video and then they get up with a remarketing ad or something. It's like, you've got to leave attribution a little bit at the door as well, and be like, you'll see the results and you'll be happy with it, but you might not like the fact that you can't track every single dollar and where it's gone. That's the bit that's hard.
I think like one of the features, and I think you guys would agree with that, especially the agency business, like one of the metrics that, and I understand Google for not disclosing that we are so much missing, is the moment in the video when people click. So that would be like that, as we have that audience retention curve for the viewing, but also like the click-through rate would be, because then it would be very easy to understand these like people that watch just 20% of the video and then by accident click, or just out of curiosity. It would be easy to tailor that content in a better way. So you use like the whole length of video to build, to give the value, as you said, to get the right to pitch the content.
Yeah, the one thing I would do to explore that and trying to handle that is I would go back to almost radio days, radio advertising. And I would say, sure, there's a link you can click if you're running an Instream ad. There's a link you can click here, and it'll take you through to the page that will look like this, and put that pitch in front of them. But you say, but at 8 minutes into this video, I'm going to give you a unique URL, and you can go to that page, and it's going to give you a load more information and a breakdown of how this all works in much more detail. So what you're doing is because Instream ads you can't skip, right? You have to wait for 8 minutes, but then you could wait until the domain name, you just call it out on the video, and so anyone who visits that site had to have watched you for 8 minutes, and then you can provide them a better experience there. So there's a way of, I think that I haven't worked out. I mean, the theory of that makes sense. I haven't tested that fully. But that's the sort of thing I would be exploring to try and handle that. To say, if anyone gets that other website uniquely from that YouTube video, then I know they'll come from that ad.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
and there's no click. It's like they had to kind of set up a new tab and type it in. I think that then you said that's my high quality traffic. And like, they watched me for 8 minutes and then wanted to come and buy from me. I'll remarket those people all day long.
Okay, I have we have what more 7-8 minutes, but I have like 2-3 more questions, and this one is going to be weird. Google is going to remove content-based targeting in February. I mean, they're not going to remove. They just technically they're going to leave us these custom segments or whatever they call them these days, but they're going to remove keywords and topics and placements. And we kind of all know why is that bad, but I want to ask you, why is that good?
Why is that good?
Yeah. Did you find any way or any logic that we can, as marketers, I think Kevin Milani said, like, we are just like a cockroaches. Like, whatever you throw on us, we're going to figure out how to find our way to the success. So I just want to ask you, like, did you figure out any reason why, okay, this thing is happening, but, this might smell like opportunity?
Okay, I see what you're saying. I must admit, I've looked at it and thought, I understand why YouTube are doing it. I think that there's a want from YouTube to be like, we want the advertisers that are more brand focused, or have more of a broader appeal. And I think they're struggling, YouTube, to get the machine learning working with content targeting. I think it's like they've said for years inside of ad accounts, like, oh, if you're using keywords, you're really hindering your performance. It's like, what do you want me to do? Remove these keywords because I don't think you're going to be doing a very good job, Google. And it's like, there's so many counterintuitive advice you get inside the ad accounts. So I see it as a big opportunity if you can crack it, because I think the audience is going to be so much bigger. That you could 10x, 20x your ad spend if you can crack it. Like, that's what's exciting about it. I think it's another big thing about it as well. I think the good will survive, so a bit like Google Ads in the good old days, 80% of the advertisers disappeared, but 20% were left, and they were the good guys, and I think it matures up so that the bigger players win. But if I'm being brutally honest, if you think of all the ads you see on YouTube, they're not good. They're not good for the world. I don't like. I like to promote reputable brands that do really good things. But my word, when you open up YouTube and you think, here's another coach promising the earth.
Yes.
The FTC should have cracked down on them years ago. Yeah. And you think that is not good for any industry. So I think in the end, it's quite a disrupting time, but I think in the end, the good companies will that provide great services will be the ones that take over YouTube. The good will prevail, and I think that's the opportunity. Is like, stay in the game, keep focusing on what works and what doesn't work, but focus on providing great content and great offers. So your customers love you, keep returning, referring more business to you. And remember, like, paid acquisition is like one of 6 major ways of driving traffic. There's so many other ways of doing it. So gone are the days maybe of like throwing up a bad ad and bad offer and still making it like work really well. But just the people that aren't doing good work will get found out pretty quick. And I think that's the shift that's going to help a lot of people.
Last question. And then we're gonna wrap this up. And for the next one, because we're gonna obviously do the next one, we have to keep doing this. I want to talk more about the software that you put together, and the only reason why I didn't want to speak about that software on this conversation is because I didn't use it, and I wouldn't be comfortable, just like not being a good buddy to have the conversation about that. In any case, I want to ask you, did you guys, as one of the largest performance marketer on a YouTube, did you guys figure out any traction with the short ads? Did you guys found certain format ad accounts, offers that are working with that?
We've just built a bit of software that analyzes shorts.
Wow.
And the content. And so we're saying, like, based on retention and likes and comments and looking into what makes a good short. And we're lucky because we've got access to some amazing YouTube channels throughout our time, from like Alex Hormozy through to Social Media Marketing World and that type of stuff. So and VThread and all those sorts of people. So we're gathering a lot of data. We haven't explored YouTube short ads as much as we're kind of waiting for the launch in, what is it, February, March, I think is like the time we're actually fully releasing it. So we're kind of waiting for that period to like go double down on it. But I know you can run short ads if you get the dimensions right and focus on that. And so, we haven't got much data on that yet, but we're learning fast, and we're looking to see if that is a good play for the future. But we're not even too sure about like the best way of running those ads, whether it be like a short ad to more YouTube content, or whether it be a short ad to a website with a VSL, or what that looks like. We haven't even figured that out. So in answer to your question, no, we are focusing on it. I don't have anything useful to share, but I want to turn the table on you, because I know you run loads of ads and you've got so much intel that we haven't spoken about anything you're doing. So I want to know what you're doing.
I think for that there are two dimensions for VidTao. Well, we are kind of, since Google finally publicly disclosed all ads that advertisers are running on a search and on a YouTube. That was a huge relief. Like, for some people, they thought, okay, VidTao is done. Like, why?
Really? Okay.
Why would people need VidTao now? We can find all the ads, but essentially, it was quite opposite, because they're not going to disclose how much money people are spending and which ads are working. But on our side, it gave us, complete new dimension of how we build our infrastructure and how we collect the data for VidTao. So in the next month or two, we're going to have complete redesign of the VidTao with way more data aggregated on an advertiser level, trends, whatnot. We are also playing. This is exciting. I don't think anyone, I said this anywhere, but we have one idea of trying to figure out if Pareto principle is holding up on a YouTube organic. Essentially, that means that probably 10 to 15 channels generate, or 10% of channels generate 90% of the available inventory. So what we are going to integrate within the VidTao is essentially that, like, we're going to monitor public data of the biggest channels, which will give us like a curves of the available inventory. So we would see these ups and downs and where there is more or less inventory. And then, and which will help people, I'm sure you always get these questions in the middle of November, what is happening? Is it Black Friday during the election? Is it the elections and whatnot? So I think that will help people to kind of get macro level what's going on. On the supply side, we are, I would say, in the same position as you for shorts. We figure out that, you need a portrait mode and you need less than 1 minute. But since there is no product in isolation as ads, like you can't run tests, because one days you would get like 80% of the 80% will go into the shorts, and then the other day to 20%. So we are still also in a waiting mode till February to finally get the product, so we can just blast the shorts and figure out the format. So I hope.
Yeah, I definitely think it would be a hybrid approach of saying, looking at the organic and ads together. Again, like the paid, owned and earned media as well. Like to say, if you create like 20 shorts and then your best short goes a bit viral, for example, but it's good for business as well, it's almost like I would take that video, put a call to action on it, and then run it as an ad. So you just kind of, that messaging has cracked the algorithm. That's kind of the thing that people really like. I say, cool, that's worked, great. Put a call to action on it, whack it up, put some ad spend behind it, and then see what sort of result you get. But I honestly think that like attribution is going to be a thing whereby you just cannot, it's going to get murkier and murkier, I think. And it's going to get to the point where you just like, or you figure it out and then can't make any decisions on that data anyway.
No.
So I think you would have to do it in a way where you say you promote your short to get people to watch your long form content, and off the back of that, get them to become a customer. I think you just look at it as more of like you're building an ecosystem, rather than trying to have a really linear line from like this ad goes to this offer and then I convert and I made this much money and then I just want to rinse and repeat that. I think those days are limited, let's put it that way, for a lot of advertisers.
Okay, I know that you have full schedule, and thank you very much for this conversation. I think the community will benefit a lot, and I know even when we launch with our premium community, we ask people like, who would you like to see here, and your name came first. Like, you have some fans within VidTao.
I don't know where they are. That's very kind of you.
So thank you for this conversation, and we're gonna set the next one, I guess, soon.
Let's do it. I'd love to jump on another call. And just for the record as well, like, I love these conversations when these conversations go deep. And I really realize it's going to be one-sided of me giving my opinion. I know that there's so much more that you guys can provide to this conversation. So I want this to carry on these conversations, because at the moment it feels like I'm just parting knowledge, and I want to get something from you guys, because you guys have got so much intel as well. So we should jam out more often. I'd really appreciate that. That'd be really cool.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks, Brett.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us for this episode of VidTao Podcast. Again, my name is Ian Naj, co-founder of VidTao, and really appreciate you having a listen. And it means a lot. So if you have any feedback, go ahead and email us at info@vidtao.com. Love to hear your ideas for future shows, future guests. If you want to be a guest, let us know. Love to chat. Also, just as a reminder, this show has been sponsored by VidTao, which is our free YouTube ad library. VidTao.com. Again, you can go to VidTao and look up over 1 million ads at this point inside of VidTao. They're all unlisted YouTube ads. You can see what your competitors are running, track the results on a day-by-day basis, find new ads inside of our YouTube ad library, VidTao. And we also have a premium edition of VidTao. So the library is free to access, but for full unlimited access to the library, we have a premium edition of VidTao. We also have training from our Instream.com agency, which is our sister company to VidTao, where we've managed over $150 million on YouTube. We provide training on media buying, creatives, tracking, copywriting, everything in between. It's all there inside of VidTao Premium. And right now we're running a very special deal on VidTao Premium. And you can go claim that right now at vidtao.com. When you sign up for free, you'll see the offer to join Premium, and go there and check that out. And last thing, we also do free brainstorm calls with our agency Instream. Go to instream.com/call. And we love brainstorming with you on your video advertising and just marketing in general. Love to chat. So instream.com/call, CALL. Would love to speak with you. So thanks again for joining us, and looking forward to the next show. In the meantime, have a great week.